Okay, so here is an example of what we looked at. Basically, what we did was we took a longer polynomial, we split it and grouped it into common pairs that had common factors. And so what I just did is I just divided this evenly in half, 2 on one side, 2 on the other side. That creates a smaller polynomial, and that allows me to factor out those smaller polynomials together. So because I had 2 whole numbers here, what I want to do is take the greatest common factor, so those prime numbers. And so they only share 1, 2. And so because they only share 1, 2, I'm just going to drop down 1, 2. And then because I have both of them have x's, I want to go ahead and find the greatest common factor of those 2 x's. And the greatest common factor of those 2 x's is just going to be the smallest value. And so that's stated right here. Identify the smallest x variable, choose the lowest of the 2 exponents as the greatest common factor. So there I factored out this, so I'm just putting that together. So 2x squared. Right, you can see me putting that together. Now I have to work with this part. Again, I have 2 whole numbers. If I have 2 whole numbers, then I want to go ahead and take out the greatest common factor. So I'm going to go ahead and factor these out, taking out those prime numbers. What you see here is they share a 3. And so because it's only 1 prime number they share, I just drop down that 3. I'm not going to look for an x here because I only have 1 x. I only look for x's if I have 2 x's. And I only look for whole numbers if I have 2 whole numbers as well. That's stated right here. Okay, so now I've gone ahead and I factored out those 2 polynomials. And so that's that red part, right? And so now that I factored out those 2 polynomials, I want to see what needs to be multiplied to that factor to give me my original expression. And so you can see me doing that. 2x squared. Well, how did I go from 2x squared to 4x cubed? And there is me solving that. I have to add or multiply by 2x. So that's why 2x is right there. How did I go from 2x squared to 14x cubed or squared? Well, you can see me figuring that out right there. I have to add 7 or multiply by 7. So it's just adding 7. Okay, same thing over here. How did I go from 3 to 6x? I have to solve for that. Multiply by 2x. And how did I go from 3 to 21? I multiplied by 7. Okay. And so now here, what we want to do is we want to group things that are similar. So obviously 2x plus 7 is the same thing as 2x plus 7. So when I write it down here, I'm only going to write it once. If I have similar ones, I'm just going to write it once. I don't have to write it 2 times. And then this one, there's no pairs, so I'm just going to add them together. Okay, and then this is me just going ahead and checking my answer, seeing if I get my original expression by doing FOIL. So I'm taking this and seeing if I get back to my original polynomial. And I do, in fact, do that. So if I want to go ahead and check by multiplying, that's how you would do it. Okay. But basically, these are the steps that we use to go ahead and factor all polynomials. And so we're going to look through some quick practice problems of that today. All right. So questions right now? So let's go ahead and look through some example problems. Let me share my screen. Okay. Perfect. So here is the first problem we're going to look at. Actually, hold on one second.
Please stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Please remain standing for a moment of silence. Thank you. You may be seated.
Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and look at these example problems. This one says, which shows one way to determine the factors of this polynomial by grouping. And so basically grouping is the process that we just went over. It's basically factoring out this polynomial. So the first thing we want to do is we want to write out that polynomial. And now we're going to group it. And so in order to group it, we're going to go ahead and make them smaller. So split it up. So we're going to work with this, or sorry. We're going to factor out this equation on this side and this equation on this side. So now we're going to go ahead and factor. So over here, what I notice is I only have one whole number. Because I only have one whole number, I'm not going to have to factor out a whole number. You only factor out whole numbers if you have two. So we only have one, so we're not going to factor out a whole number there. However, here we do have two x variables, and so I do want to factor out an x variable. So I have x3 and x2, or x cubed and x squared. Remember, when I am factoring x's, I want to take the smallest of those two x's. So x squared is going to be the smallest of those two x's. So that's it. I factored that side already. Over here, do I have two whole numbers? Yes, I do. I have a -2 and I have a 24. So I want to go ahead and find the factors, specifically the prime factors of those two. So -2, 24. I'm going to try 1 and -2. 1 is a prime number. -2 is a prime number. -2 and -12. -2 is a prime number. 12 isn't. So I want to go ahead and further factor -4 and 3. 3 is a prime. 2 and -2. 2 is a prime and -2 is a prime. So I've gone ahead and I factored out both of those whole numbers. I want to see what they have in common. They have in common 1, -2. And so therefore, the factor that I'm going to take from that is -2. Now I want to see only one of the expressions has an x, the other one does not. And so therefore, I don't want to factor out an x. I only factor out an x if I have two x's. So therefore, there I have my factors. So I can go ahead and write those again. The factor of this one was x squared. The factor of this one was -2. And so now what I basically want to do is see what do I have to multiply to that factor to give me my original expression. So here's my original expression of this side. Here is my original expression of this side. So that's what I'm working with. So x2. How do I go from x2 to x cubed? I just multiply an x. Okay. How do I go from -12x squared to x, or how do I go from x squared to -2x squared? I just multiply a -12. What I'm actually doing here, if you're not 100% sure, is I'm saying, what do I need to multiply to my factor to give me my expression? So this would give me x cubed. And that would give me -12x squared. So I'm trying to figure out, what do I need to multiply to this factor right here, the factor that I took out, in order to give me my original expression. Okay, so that's what I'm doing there. I'll move this over here because that's not, okay. Same thing over here, I have -2. What do I have to multiply to -2 to give me -2x? Just an x. What do I have to multiply to -2 to give me 24? -12. I'm doing the same thing. -2x would give me -2x, which is what I need. -12 and, -2 and -12 will give me a +24, which is what I need. So again, I'm just trying to figure out, what do I need to multiply to my original factor to give me my original expression. Okay, so there I've gone ahead and I've factored out this expression. For the purpose of this problem, I can stop here because basically you can see that this expression is in terms of this. So basically these answer choices mimic what we have here. And so I want to see which of these matches that. Obviously this one doesn't. I need an x squared. I need an x minus 12 on the inside, so that wouldn't. I need a minus 2. I need an x, not an x squared, and then I need a minus 12. And so the only one that doesn't have any crossouts is going to be my answer choice D, and so that's what I'm going to select there. Okay, so for the purpose of this problem, you are going ahead and you're completing each of the steps. However, you're not going to complete the last step. The last step that we normally would complete is just putting together like terms. So this one's the same, this one's the same. So that would be x minus 12. And then those two aren't the same, so they would just become like that. And that would be my last step for factoring this polynomial. But for the purpose of this question, I only need to leave it like this. I don't need to complete that further step. You can if you want to, and then revert back and see which step you're on. But the easiest thing is to identify this is the last step I need to complete for this problem. And so I'm just trying to see which of these answer choices matches what I got for that step right there. Okay, questions about this?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So this is basically what you're going to do through each of these problems. You're just going to go ahead and factor those polynomials. So I'll look at a different one. Here is a different one. This one, that you're actually looking for the resulting expression, so you want to get to the end. Yeah, you want to get to the end point. So if I wanted to go ahead and factor this out, I'm going to write it. Right, and then I'm going to divide it into two groups, meaning I'm going to factor this on this side, and I'm going to factor this on this side. Right, pretty straightforward. Here, do I have any whole numbers? No, I do not, so I'm not factoring out a whole number. I do have two x's, however. I have an x cubed and an x squared. Remember, I want to take the smallest of those two. So x squared is going to be the smallest of those two. Over here, I do not have two whole numbers and I do not have two x's. You could say I hypothetically have two whole numbers if you wanted to, which is 1 and 1, but I don't have two x's, and 1 and 1, both of those are primes. So if you wanted to, you could take out the factor of 1, but you don't have to necessarily. Okay, and so now I have my factors, x2, and I'll work with this factor 1 just to see what we get. X2, okay, I want to see what I'm going to multiply to x2 to give me my original expression. This was my original expression. So how do I go from x2 to x cubed? I just multiply by x. How do I go from x2 to x2? Just multiply by 1. Same thing over here. How do I go from 1x, or how do I go from 1 to 1x? Just multiply by x. How do I go from 1 to 1? Just multiply by 1. 1 times 1 is 1. And so there I have my two expressions. I'm going to put together like terms. So let me move this down further. Put together those like terms, and I'm going to move this over. Well, I have 2 repeated x to the 1, so I only need to write it 1 time. And then x2 and 1 aren't the same, so I want to group those together by adding. And so therefore, that's my final expression. That is my factoring of my polynomial. So I'm looking for the answer choice that looks like that. This one's missing a +1. This one's missing a +1. That one's exactly right. This one has x cubed. I need x squared, and so therefore C is my answer. So this one, you're going to complete all those steps to the very last step. And then once you get to the very last step, you're looking for that resulting expression. So what expression did you get at the end? Okay, where the other one we stopped before the last step. But you're just conducting the same process. And yeah, those are all the different types of problems you are going to encounter. One where you are going to go ahead and factor, but you're not going to get to the last step. You're going to get to the step before the last step and see which of those follows that last step before the last step. And this one, you're going to the very end. So when you're looking for the resulting expression, you know you're looking for your very last expression after doing all those factoring. Okay, questions? All right, 1 second. Sorry, okay. If you are not 100% sure on these steps, I have went ahead and listed them out for you. So you don't necessarily have to view the whole PowerPoint again. You can if you want to. If you go to the classwork tab, go back to Tuesday, you do have these steps listed out for you, what to do. This is for every polynomial that you have. So how do you factor it? You just follow these steps. Okay, so that's listed out for you. Here I have the list of all the prime numbers. So all those numbers you're looking for when you're factoring, in case you don't know all the prime numbers, they are here for you. And if those are the example problems and some extra ones if you want to look at those. And then I have uploaded my written stuff for yesterday's PowerPoint. So if you want to go ahead and see how I solved each of those different problems, that's there for you too. There is the original PowerPoint, this one, and then there's that written one. So whichever resources you want to use, you can totally use. Okay. Questions, concerns? All right. If there's no other questions, if you guys may work on your independent practice, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye, guys.
Bye, Miss.
Bye.